Can you have the courage to listen in? I know that I so often complain that no one in my house listens. There was a period of time when I would even ask them, could someone please just verify that I'm actually making noise when I speak? Funny though, when I think about it, because at some point I stopped asking. And no, it wasn't because they started listening. Please. No, I guess I just accepted that no one really is listening. Unless I lead with a first name, wait for recognition, and then proceed. Well, I could literally say just about anything aloud and no one will hear. But how about me? I mean, well, yes, duh. Of course, I'm always listening. I have to be, right? I'm the mom, and that's part of my job to always have at least one ear open. But that's listening out. Do I listen in? Do you? It takes a different skill set to listen in, to truly hear what your mind and your heart and your gut are telling you, to listen to what your mind is telling you, and then dig through all of it to determine what you should believe and what you shouldn't, to hear the whispers from your intuition, the things that you know deep down in your soul, but that are often drowned out by the chaos of your mind. It's like you're in a room and everyone is yelling and talking about all kinds of things. Some of it's important and some of it is silly. Some of it is true and some of it is not. And then there's this one person who's whispering, who's telling you what you really need to know, the truth that you really want to hear. But you need to quiet all of the other noise to hear it. Do you have the strength to do that? Because it does take a certain balance of strength and peace to find the courage to listen in. But when you can find that balance, that courage, you can hear the things that you need to hear. Hey guys, it's Jen. This is another episode of Reframing Me. So, I went down a crazy spiral the other day that I thought I'd share with you all. No, it definitely wasn't one of my best moments, but it did solidify for me what we should have our conversation about today. So, my daughter and I, we went to get our nails done. School starts on Monday, so it seemed like a fun back to school activity. Personally, I always like to have my nails done because, well, it's just nice to look down and think, wow, I look pretty. Even if many days it's only my hands that are actually put together, it still makes me feel nice. Well, the guy did them too short. I mean, not a ton too short, but enough too short. And I'm not a fan of my hands in the first place. So when I looked at them, instead of looking and the goal of, wow, I look pretty, all I saw were short, stubby, old lady hands. Now, my daughter's, hers looked long and fun and beautiful. Well, you know, I'm always authentic with you all. So I have to be honest and say, I did not mask my disappointment well. I did not practice the pause. I did not look at the positive side. I was not grateful for the fact that I was able to get my nails done there with my daughter, or that I have fingers to even get done in the first place, or that for once she was happy with how her beautiful nails came out, which really, that was the important thing because it was her first day of high school. I didn't say or do or think any of the other million things that I'm constantly preaching to myself, to my kids, to you. Not a one. Nope. Instead, I asked, what time do you open up in the morning so that I could come back and get them redone? And then I pouted the entire drive home as my daughter, she tried to tell me how nice they look. And I kept saying things like, no, they don't, or I hate them, or they're so ugly. I was talking like a bratty child. They're not ugly. They're not the best. They're a bit too short, but it is the firstest of first world problems if I have ever heard one. Now, I don't get upset about stupid stuff like this. Yes, maybe in the past I did, but this Jen, she's Zen, right? And she absolutely doesn't let something stupid like her nails stand between her and her happiness and peace. So, realizing the crazy train that I was driving at that point, I texted my friend and I'm like, okay, so go with me here on this spiral. I got my nails done and I hate them. They're too short, they're stupid and ugly, and I'm going to go back first thing in the morning when they open to get them cut and tipped and redone. Does this constitute a psychotic break? I did continue on with her then, self therapizing. I told her that I have been feeling old and fat lately. And I should qualify, not fat per se, but I'm just super bloated for some reason. So I feel like I'm walking around in one of those inflatable Halloween costumes, the ones with the little motors attached to keep them inflated, like a T-Rex or something. That's what I feel like. So no, it's not fat, it's inflated. And the 95-degree heat with like 220% humidity is definitely contributing to that inflation, especially in my fingers. And despite this lovely weather, summer's over. I'm back at school this week, and I don't want to be back to school. My kids start back on Monday. And remember, it's the first day of, quote, the year that I've been both excitedly anticipating and dreading simultaneously. It's the one year that all three will be together in high school. My oldest is starting his senior year, and my youngest is now a freshman. So it's a big year for us. One of my dogs had surgery this week, so she's been recovering. And my daughter's guinea pig that I had become bizarrely attached to over the years. A stupid guinea pig. I didn't even think that you could get attached to a guinea pig. But over nearly 8 years, I had become really attached to Georgie. Well, Georgie hung on for much longer than her life expectancy was supposed to be, but she died this week. Oh, and did I mention that I am ridiculously bloated? Anyway, I could go on, but I'm guessing you all can therapize me too at this point. I recognized that I was projecting all of that on my nails, my ugly, short old lady nails. It's not about the nails. The nails are just the only part of this that I can be angry about. The only thing that I can fix or that I can change. The nails are the only thing that I feel like I can actually be mad or upset about. It's not about the nails at all. It's about what the nails represent. So I know enough about the damn nails, Jen. We get it. Okay, so just go with me here. I was talking with a different friend the other day, and she was just normal mom venting about her son's new girlfriend. Basically, that she doesn't like her. She doesn't think she's good for him. She doesn't think she's good enough for him, etc., etc. It's his first real girlfriend. He just got his driver's license and he's going into 11th grade this year. He's an only child and she's a single mom. And so forever, it's been the two of them. She also just turned 41. She was venting. And hey, I am always here for a good venting. In fact, my very favorite texts to receive are the ones that start, okay, so I need to vent. And then the 3 little dots pop up for like ever, right? And then it's the giant paragraph that eventually follows. So, yes, I am very supportive of the vent. I think it's very healthy. And so I didn't say much beyond nodding my head and listening because that was what she needed. She needed to get it out. It's not about the girl. I mean, who knows? I've never met her. And really, she barely knows her enough at this point to even know if she likes her or if she doesn't. But for my friend, it's irrelevant. It's all that this girl represents. This girl just happened to be the one who appeared on the scene as he got his driver's license and as she was feeling old and alone and probably super bloated, right? Ugh, have I mentioned that I feel like I'm walking around in one of those sumo wrestler costumes? Sorry, didn't mean to make it about me, but it wasn't the girl, just like it wasn't my nails. It wasn't the girl. It was the change that she brought, the new stage of life that she was accompanying, the chapter that my friend wasn't ready to say goodbye to, the son that she had given everything to for like 16 years and who she had had all to herself, the time that they spent together in the car talking about their days. And now he was off driving himself. And he was talking to and texting the girl about his days. And of course, she and her son are still close and they're still talking, but it's different. For the first time, she needs to share him with someone else, and she isn't ready for that. And I think that that is a super common issue that many of us face in some way or another with our teens. It's not the girl. She's just the one who is representing what my friend feels like she's losing in some way. Even if it's more of a change than a loss, she still doesn't want it to change. And we all do this. We have a bad day at work. We come home and we're short with our partners about dinner. It's not about dinner. It's not even about them. It's about work. But we don't necessarily tell them that or even realize it ourselves. And instead, we end up arguing over something stupid like dinner. Or every morning we find dirty socks in the middle of the kitchen. Is it that big a deal to have dirty socks on the floor? No. But we still find ourselves yelling at our kids about the socks. We cleaned up the house before we went to bed, and now we're waking up to socks in the middle of the floor. We do so much for everyone. We work so hard. We try to take care of everything and of everyone. We do it without feeling appreciated. All that we do goes unnoticed. And typically we are okay with that. We know that we're the mom, and that kind of goes with the territory, right? But the stupid socks. Why did they make us so mad? The socks, they're just a metaphor. They represent our feelings about being taken for granted or feeling unappreciated or maybe feeling disrespected because we had just cleaned up. It's rarely about the socks. The socks are just something easy to fixate on. There's something tangible that we can be angry about. The socks represent the feelings that we're having, the things that we can't control or we can't put our fingers on or we can't get mad about at all. The girlfriend represents the feelings that my friend is having about her son growing up and about her getting older and feeling sadness and maybe like she's being left behind. She can't dislike her son for growing up, but she can dislike the girl for being a party to it, right? It's not about the nails. It's that the nails are a metaphor for how I'm feeling, things that I can't fix or control or be angry about. So that's what we're going to have a conversation about today, or at least where we're going to start our conversation. Metaphors. specifically the role that metaphors play in family communication. And then from there, we're going to continue the conversation to understand the difference between listening and hearing in communication, and then how we can start to use all of this to better communicate and understand each other, because it's usually not about the socks. Okay, so let's jump back in time to middle school English class. Metaphors are the figure of speech where a word or a phrase is applied to something where it otherwise isn't really applicable. Metaphors equate two things for the sake of comparison. So, coming home and telling someone that work was a nightmare. It wasn't really a nightmare, but equating your day to the content of a nightmare really makes it descriptive. Saying that someone is an open book. They're not really a book, right? It just means that they are totally open and have nothing to hide. So, in families, metaphors have three functions. First, metaphors are representational acts. We'll do behaviors or we'll send messages that function as symbols for other messages or other values or other concerns in the family. Something like filling up the gas tank or getting the oil changed. They're not the most romantic of gestures, no, but they are behaviors that can function as a symbolic representation of love. Bringing someone coffee, things like that. Being at your child's game, even if you all know that they won't even play. Stocking the fridge with their favorite drinks or filling the pantry with their favorite snacks. They're all acts that represent caring. Similarly, leaving wet towels on the floor or a mess in the kitchen, or not calling you on a special day. Those are all acts that represent disrespect or disinterest or just seemingly not caring for you, right? And then families in particular. Families develop a series of metaphors where certain behaviors can stand in for a broader meaning and require a specific response from someone, something that someone outside of your family wouldn't understand. So, like, do you have a certain look that you give your kids when you want them to stop talking about something or stop telling that story or otherwise just stop doing something that you want them to stop, but you can't actually say stop, right? But you give them a look and they know what you mean. Maybe it even started when they were little and all you had to do was start counting. 1, 2, because they knew, right? Because maybe you had initially started in with, if I count to 3, and then eventually it became 1, 2, with the accompanying look, right? And then once they got older, the look stood alone. Or maybe you give your partner a kick under the table, and they know that that means that they should jump in and change the subject. It can mean something positive or negative. It can be ideological or more tangible. But the two things, the behavior and then the meaning, the two things are only related because your family has attached the symbolism to it. Just like in language, the two things are unequivocal, other than you are equating them for the sake of comparison. The second function that metaphors serve for a family is as a collective paradigm. Now, a paradigm is a statement that suggests a family's orientation to the world around them. So, like how they view the world. Maybe it gives a piece of wisdom that guides the family. So, as paradigms, metaphors can influence how the family relates to their environment and how family members relate to each other. It can be a way of like seeing and knowing the world, like the family's worldview. Families can influence then how their kids see or go off into the world. So whether it's through the paradigm, the world is a cruel and harsh place, or through the paradigm, the world is your oyster. Those are two very different ways for a family to set their kids up to go off into the world. And they are going to have very different results, right? Do they see the world as being hard, challenging, and maybe even unfair, cruel, and harsh? Or do they see the world as the gateway to all the wonderful things of their hopes and their dreams, all that they can accomplish? The world is their oyster. But just like all things that we've talked about in communication, the paradigm is going to simultaneously be our response coming from our experiences, as well as it's going to impact our kids' future experiences. The metaphors help to reflect and to reinforce these family paradigms. So, like if you explain to your kids, sometimes bad things happen to good people. Now, sometimes the metaphors can become problematic in themselves and even suppress issues if they then find themselves facing something that's contradictory to the paradigm that they've been raised to view the world through. So if instead you've tried to encourage them to be good because good things happen to good people, that can be a great motivator. But what happens if they find themselves facing something contradictory? What happens when something bad happens to these good people? Now, metaphors can also be labels or adjectives that reflect or reinforce the family's view of the family itself, of their values or their behaviors. So, like this summer, I have consistently referred to my house as a fraternity house because the boys have had it full of kids all summer long. You are hard pressed to find a day, and definitely never 2 consecutive days, that we haven't had a house full of teen boys, like 8 or 10 or 12 of them at a time, at all times. They're playing video games and basketball, or they're out in the pool, or they're sprawled out on the couches and the floors, or they're raccooning through the pantry and leaving Gatorade bottles on the counter. I'm restocking snacks and ordering food and washing towels and listening to their stories and laughing both at them and with them. I have spent enough time in fraternity houses in my day to see that what our house currently is and be able to attach the label of being a fraternity house. It's just a lot cleaner. Well, and obviously no alcohol, duh. Although it'd probably be cheaper than keeping these boys stocked with Gatorade, and definitely cheaper than stocked with Prime. You might describe your family as being a circus or controlled chaos, or your house is Grand Central Station, or you're a total hot mess. Now, third, these metaphors can connect or frame a specific experience into a greater meaning for the family or for a person in the family. So if your family needs to move, do you see it as uprooting everyone? Or do you frame it as being a fresh start? Uprooting is a much different way to view something than a fresh start. If a parent loses their job, do you frame it as being shameful or as them being a failure? Or do you frame it as we're going through a rough patch and we just need to stick together? Do we frame our teens growing up and needing us less as being exciting because we have so many new opportunities and possibilities? Or do we frame it as being sad, like we've lost our purpose in life? So yeah, projecting. Projecting would definitely be a part of metaphors. It wasn't the nails. It was what the nails represented. I looked at them and I saw sad, bloated old lady hands because I was feeling sad and bloated and old. I looked at my daughter's young, beautiful, snazzy blue French And I wasn't jealous, but it was such a stark contrast to my boring, stubby, blonde, neutral nails that the nails became a metaphor for how I felt. And I can't make myself not sad about the end of summer or not feel old as my kids enter this year of high school. And apparently, I cannot do a damn thing about how bloated I am. I mean, Jesus, I am trying. But I can do something about my nails because at least that is one thing that I can control. And the friend who I brought with me on my journey of partial psychotic break, well, she listened to me. Yes, my daughter had heard me, but she didn't get it. I mean, how could she? She's 13. She thought I actually meant that my nails were ugly. And I will admit that they're not ugly. They're a perfectly lovely color, and the shape and the length, they're fine. And they'd probably look great on her young, beautiful hands. They're just safe and boring and stubby comparatively to what I had gone in with and thought I said I wanted. But no, they're not actually stubby. They're not even really probably actually considered short. But right now, they just represent everything that's making me feel icky inside. And my wonderful friend, she listened to me. And just like in friendships, in families, but especially as parents, we need to listen, not to just hear what our kids are saying. We need to listen to them because oftentimes what they are saying or doing or upset about, it's not really even about that at all. Just like my other friend, she doesn't like her son's girlfriend, not because she doesn't like the girl. She really hasn't even been around her enough to know if she does or if she doesn't. But what she does know is that she doesn't like her son growing up. She doesn't like her son moving into this stage of life. And she definitely doesn't like the prospect of their lifelong, just the two of us relationship to be invaded by a third. So it's not the girl. It's what the girl represents. How many moms out there for generations have had this same experience? Lord knows I have been on the receiving end of this. But just like we said earlier, all of these metaphors, they're just like other communication interactions. They stem from our past interactions and then they influence the future interactions. So because I personally have been on the receiving end in the past, I have always vowed that I will be different. I will welcome every single girl that my boys date. I will make them feel like they belong. I will legitimately be happy that they are around and that they bring joy to my son's lives. I will establish the metaphor of being welcoming and of having an open door. And I will let that influence how I and how my family interacts with the world around us. The second part of this, I mentioned that my friend was so good during the great nail debacle because she listened, whereas my daughter, she only heard me. We throw around the terms listening and hearing as if they are the same, but they're not. Hearing is only the physiological processing of the sounds. And I do need to give my daughter total props because yes, she actually did hear me. And to be honest, that does not always happen in my house. Who am I kidding? That rarely happens in my house. Listening though, listening means paying attention to and hearing it with thoughtful attention and giving it consideration. There's even a difference between passive and active listening. Passive listening is probably more what my daughter was doing. It isn't trying to necessarily contribute to the conversation, and it's not much more, although it is more, but not much more than hearing. Active listening, though, active listening is what we want. Active listening makes you engage. It's a way of listening and responding to the other person that improves your understanding of them and of the situation. This is the way that you want to listen if you're trying to understand the other person or if you're looking for a solution. If you're active, you're curious. You're trying to figure out what is actually going on here. You want to help. So when your son is upset about the jersey number he's been given, instead of being like, oh, it's just a number, it doesn't mean anything. Or instead of telling him that the way he plays on the field is much more important than a number, instead, actually listen to him. Actively pay attention to more than just talking about the number. What does the number represent? Does he actually feel like he doesn't have an important role on his team? And does he feel like he got a crappy number because he's a crappy player? Does he question if he's actually a good player because he's coming back from an injury and he doubts his abilities coming into the season late and coming in behind everyone else? Is he angry that he missed out on so much? Is he upset that he had been so excited and now he's just disappointed in himself and in his physical capabilities at this point? Is he sad about how things went? It's not about the number. It's about what the number represents to him. Just like it wasn't about the girl, and it definitely wasn't about the nails. Just like when we get upset about dirty socks left in the middle of the room that we just cleaned. It's not about the socks. It's about what they represent. So becoming a skilled, active listener can help you with your relationships, especially your relationships with your teens, because really, they oftentimes don't even understand that what they're upset about or sad about or angry about. They don't even realize that it's actually about something else entirely. And if you can listen to them and realize what the actual issue is, your relationship with them will be so much better. So here are 6 basic tips for you to get better at becoming an active listener. First, be curious. You need to have a genuine interest in understanding them and have a true desire to understand what is truly going on here. You need to be more interested in listening to actually hear what they are saying rather than only listening to formulate your response. So often we listen to just respond to someone, but we need to listen instead to understand. Second, don't assume anything. Don't make assumptions. How often have we said that one, right? Don't make assumptions. Ask good questions. So don't assume what they are thinking or what they are feeling. Instead, ask good questions to find the actual answers rather than filling in the blanks with what you think might be the answer. And make sure that you ask open-ended questions. Because if you ask a yes or no question, guess what? You're going to get a yes or no answer. Focus on questions that will get them to elaborate. Ask for more information. Ask for clarification. Let them fill in the blanks. Third, stay on topic. Anchor yourself to the subject and don't let yourself get distracted. Stay the course. Often we're tempted to throw out unrelated topics or distract from the subject, especially it can be tempting to stray from a topic if it's a conflict or if it's difficult or if it's uncomfortable. But stay the course, stay on topic. Fourth, ease into it. Don't just jump to conclusions and assume you know the answers right away. It's not a race. Take your time to listen, to understand what they're saying, to process what they mean. Ease into it. If you try to move too quickly, you might miss out on important information, or you might make it seem like an interrogation and might put unnecessary pressure on the other person. And it's going to be more likely to set you up for an argument. Fifth, avoid judging. Yes, maybe it's silly. Maybe they're even wrong. Maybe you don't understand. But don't ever judge, because it doesn't mean that there isn't something important there. My nails certainly were silly, but there was something much more important there. And we are all allowed to feel however we feel. Don't judge someone else's feelings. Sixth, recognize what the other person needs. Do they need to vent? Do they need advice? Are they looking for an ear from you, or are they looking for a fix from you? Whichever it is, go back to the don't belittle or judge what they're saying, because they have a right to feel however they feel. Just because you don't understand it, don't lessen their feelings. When I was venting about my nails, I didn't need a diagnosis because I had already self-therapized. I knew I was being a bit unhinged. I knew exactly why, too. But she listened. And to be honest, she gave me the best advice for my spiral. She just said, life is too short to be unhappy with your nails. And you know what? It is. So no, I may not have run back there right away as they opened, but I do think I might find my way back sometime this week. Life is too short, and 4 weeks is too long to be unhappy with my nails. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to follow the show so that you don't miss out on any new content. And please share it with your friends who might also benefit from or enjoy the show. That's how we will grow our community. Reach out to me on socials, on Instagram and TikTok at Reframing Me. And on Facebook, it's Reframing Me. And join the Facebook group, Reframing Me, the podcast community, to connect with other women who are also raising teens and rediscovering themselves. Until next time, be well, communicate, and listen out and listen in.